corruption really manifests itself through the procurement system. This institutionalization of the office of procurement is going to be very, very good in combating corruption. Ultimately, corruption will not be defeated unless we all play our part in curbing corruption. Firstly, business needs to join government in stamping out corruption wherever it manifests itself.
Thank you, Deputy President. I now would like to call on the Leader of the Opposition to ask a follow-up question.
Thank you, Deputy President. I think we can agree that despite the mechanisms that you've highlighted, corruption is on the rise. In fact, under President Zuma, corruption has even gotten worse. The real question is, it's not me just saying it, it's even the ANC's documents say it quite clearly. It says there are allegations within higher leadership echelons. They acknowledge that many acts of corruption in government derive from party dynamics. So what I'm interested in learning, the question speaks to PRASA, and similar to Nkandla, the public protector found against certain members. In fact, we know on the ground that people are telling us jobs that are EPWP are given to ANC-connected people. So our concern here is that even in this house, Honorable Pule Mabe has been found guilty by the public protector for a tender for the 33 million. What I'm interested in learning, Deputy President, is that what are you going to do to ensure there's political accountability? We can blame officials, we can put systems, but the fact is politicians get away with corruption. What are you, as leader of government business, going to do to ensure that your fellow comrades are held to account, or should we just rather wait for 2017?
The Honorable, the Deputy President.
As I indicated, corruption is a social and economic ill that we all need to fight. And it is an ill that many countries are having to deal with. All over the world, there is no country where corruption is not having to be dealt with. And the success of being able to deal with corruption depends on a number of things. One is to set in place the correct mechanisms, as I was saying, but it also has to involve the population itself. The people of any country have themselves to participate in curbing corruption. And in this case, we say communities, the business community, and everyone has to play a role. We have found that in any act of corruption, those that are involved will either be business, as well as, say, civil servants, or people in the public space who are either publicly elected people. So that is almost like the triangle of corruption, and that is what we need to attend to and to rid our country of. And it exists all over. Now, it is all very well to sit up there and be pious and say, you know, you deal with it, we have no role in it. We are saying all of us have to deal with this public ill. We've got to make sure that we deal with it and ensure that we rid our country of corruption. Now,
Honorable Maimane, can you please allow the Deputy President to respond to your question?
Yeah, my question, please.
Please, Honorable Maimane. Yeah. Honorable Deputy President, please.
Now, the Honorable Member spoke about corruption in EPWP programs. Now, I had always heard about this, and as I've gone around the country, and particularly participating in initiatives where EPWP programs are underway, I've often asked, how do people get to be chosen to participate in EPWP works or projects? And I've often been shown the lists that people have, and many people in the community say, yes, my name came up and I'm participating. Yes, my name came up and I'm participating. Now, the allegation The allegation that is being made is unknown to me, and I have gone around the length and the breadth of the country seeking to find out how those jobs are actually distributed amongst our people. So corruption, yes, is an ill that we all need to participate in curbing. Let us not sit on our perches and just talk about it. Let us do something about it. Thank you very much.
The Honorable Shengwa.
No, Honorable Speaker, on a point of order.
What's the point
With
of
great
order?
respect, the question even speaks to Honorable Mabe here. I'm asking the Deputy President, what is he going to do? Not all of us. Because otherwise it's everybody's problem. What is
Honorable
he going
Mabe.
to do? That the Deputy President
Honorable
answer the question.
Maimane.
He himself. Not all of us. He
Honorable
himself.
Maimane. I'm proceeding to ask the Honorable Shengwa to put a supplementary question to the Deputy President.
Sorry, Madam Speaker,
Yes,
point of order.
Honorable Steenhuisen.
We put questions to the Deputy President so that he answers them. He can't come here with a pre-prepared script from the Thule House and read it and expect us to accept that as an answer. He clearly did not understand or listen to the question of Honourable Maimane. It was direct and he has not answered it. We can't have these sessions here. The Deputy President's going to make a joke of this. Why must we come to the House and have these sessions if he's not actually going to answer the questions? He needs to get serious. And this man wants to be the President and he can't even answer a question.
Honorable Steenhuisen, I have now called upon Honorable Shengwa to ask a supplementary question.
Ngiyathokoza kakhulu Somlomo. Honorable Deputy President, yesterday in this House there was a debate on the issue of corruption, and I think we all left in agreement that corruption was a widespread problem, particularly on that side of the House. And it is compounded by the fact that there is a total disregard, more often than not, of the findings of the public protector. And so in the question here, I want to find out different. Is there a political will in government and a commitment to actually take the public protector seriously and the findings that come out of the investigations? Because what is currently going on cannot be acceptable, where you cherry pick the reports of the PP and say we like those, we don't like those. It makes a mockery of the process and further entrenches the culture of non-accountability. So is there political will for a proactive engagement and interaction and relationship with the PP as opposed to this offensive and attacking nature which we currently see, which is reactive more often than not and is underpinned by high levels of cherry picking? We want a commitment of a healthy working relationship between government and the public protector for us to maintain a healthy system of checks and balances, particularly with regards to issues which are her findings on matters that she's investigating. Thank you.
Honorable Deputy President.
I can answer emphatically that yes, there is political will to deal with the findings of the various institutions that we've put in place that are meant to deal with corruption, i.e. the public protector. Recently she came out with a report on PRASA, as the Honourable Leader of the Opposition referred to earlier, and when she came out with that report, immediately the board said they are studying that report and they are going to look closely at it and see what action needs to be taken. So now they have taken on the responsibility as the correct authority that should do so. They are the ones who either ask for the report or people complain, and once the report is out, they will deal with it. Now, the government's commitment to dealing with corruption is strong, and it is for this reason, if you listen very carefully, it is for this reason that this Office of Central Procurement has been put in place. And corruption always happens around procurement. And it was for this reason that the ruling party decided that an office like that should be put in place so that we can centralize procurement. And now the procurement office is setting out a supplier database so that anybody who wants to do business with the state who wants to either have the state buying their services or their goods should have their names on the database so that everything can be transparent, so that there can be higher levels of efficiency. That is precisely how we are going to carry on with the job of curbing corruption in government. But likewise, we are saying those who are in business should also pay heed, because corruption takes a number of people, those who are in business and some people who are in the public service, and also publicly elected officials do get entrapped in corrupt activities. Now, this central procurement process is going to reduce levels of corruption, is going to curb corruption, and it is going to increase efficiency in government to ensure that our resources are not wasted. That is a commitment that we are giving to the people of South Africa, and I give that to you, Mr. Hlengwa. Thank you very much.
The Honorable Filtane.
Thank you, Speaker. Mr. Deputy President, sorry to say that your initial response was pretty much generic to the main question. Doesn't offer much content. My specific question, which is based on the fact that time and time again, we get to see corruption in employment, in construction, in retail, in the form of collusion, in housing allocation, as well as in services where you get some monopolies. Now, what stringent, urgent, strategic, legal measures does your government propose to take? What policies have actually been changed in the recent past, in the last 5 years, to show that you are dealing with, not planning to, dealing with current corruption in the way, in such a manner that it can actually be arrested? Legal is an amending legislation, policy, and so on. We would like to get specific answers. If today you're not ready with specific answers, we can come back another time. You may not have all the detail that we need, but we need answers. Thank you.
The Honorable Deputy President.
A number of policies have been put in place and continue to be put in place. For instance, one of the recent policies is to stop and to curb civil servants from doing business with the state. Now, in a number of investigations, it has been found that a number of civil servants were actually doing business with the state. And some in schools, for instance, you would find that a school principal is supplying food to the children, is the head of a catering company. Now, it is for this that the state or the government decided that we should stop and curb activities like those, because the conflict of interest is quite huge when it comes to that. So that was a policy move, a clear, directed policy move to curb activities such as this. Now, without really having to repeat, one of the most outstanding decisions was to establish the Office of the Central Procurement. And this was decided by the ruling party at its conference. It has now been put in place. The procurement bill is also going to be put before Parliament, and the machinery and the mechanisms are being put in place to deal with the question of corruption. Now, this is a ruling party that is not paying lip service to the issue of dealing with corruption. It is actually getting down to business. Now, if you want to know, a number of civil servants have actually been dealt with in a number of ways. In the disciplinary fashion, some have actually had criminal charges preferred against them, and some have actually had even follow-up actions like refunding money to the state. Now, all these are both policy instruments as well as practical action that has been taken. Now, referring to the earlier question, where an allegation is made that members of Parliament have been involved in corrupt activities, this Parliament has the power that if any member of parliament is involved in corrupt activities, they can be reported to the ethics committee, and the ethics committee can deal with them. So please don't come here and complain. If anyone is involved in corrupt activities, let them be reported to the ethics committee. And that's how we deal with corruption.
The Honorable Maxson.
Thank you, Speaker. Deputy President, the flourishing of corruption in this country is not so much as a result of public servants mismanaging funds because they are incompetent. It is a result of the institutionalization of corruption at a political level. Shabir Sheikh gets convicted of having a corruption relationship with the president, and he spent a few months on jail and goes on to play golf. The public protector asked the president to pay a reasonable amount of the money spent to build his compound in Kandla, and he uses parliament to shield his corruption. Your own company, Deputy President, colludes to sell coal to Eskom at inflated prices. Now the question is, what kind of medicine is needed to cure ANC? To cure ANC with its leadership? You can laugh, but you can hear what I'm saying. The ANC need medicines to be cured. Start with number one, because there is no political will at all. Or we need prayers in this country. Thank you.
The Honorable Deputy President.
Madam Speaker, earlier I spoke about the problem of corruption. And we are not unique. Many countries, many institutions are having to deal with corruption all over the world. And if we recall, in this very country, if we cast our eyes back, corruption was rife. And it was corruption that was also underpinned by an apartheid system. But we never got to hear about it. It was hidden. It was hidden under the edifice of apartheid. Today, yes, we do get to hear about corruption, which is good, which shows that transparency is increasing. It is coming out now more and more in the open. Our media is much more vigorous, and it is a good sign and process. And at the same time, the ruling party has actually decided that it is going to deal with corruption as one of the key ills that beset our country. Now, mechanisms are being put in place, some are already in operation, and indeed, some will continue to be in operation. If members of this House have further suggestions on how this can be dealt with, let them put them on the table. We are open to any suggestion, but we have put in place mechanisms that are currently dealing with a spate of corruption. And we are determined to rid our country of corruption. Whether you like it or not, we will do it. Thank you very much.
We now come to question raised by the Honorable Shibambu. Question number 18. The Honorable, the Deputy President.
Madam Speaker and honorable members, like many other countries, our economy currently faces headwinds. It faces difficult challenges that are contributing to low economic growth. We are not the only country in the world that is facing economic woes. Right across the country, including a country like China, which was growing at high rates of growth. So we are not alone. Let us remember, we are not alone. There are many other countries that are facing economic challenges. And some of our challenges are domestic. We have a large skills deficit as a result of our past. We have systemic unemployment. We have low levels of domestic savings. We do have energy constraints, as we all know, and low levels of fixed and investment and there are also labor relations issues. On the other hand, there are quite a number of external challenges that we face, like many other countries, and these include a plunge in commodity prices. We are essentially a mineral-based economy, and the commodities that we eke out of our soil are facing great difficulties. Lower demand from China and other emerging economies, and rising interest rates in some of the developed economies like the United States. We are determined to address these challenges so that we can accelerate economic growth and achieve the goals that we set for ourselves in the National Development Plan. In addition, the 9-point plan that was announced by President Jacob Zuma in his State of the Nation address is specifically designed to address these challenges. This has been this government's response to the economic headwinds that we are facing. This government is committed to a mixed economy that facilitates and enhances the participation of both the public and the private sectors. As we note in the National Development Plan, South Africa requires both a capable and a developmental state able to act to redress historical inequities and to have a vibrant and thriving private sector which is going to work alongside with the public sector. The NDP recognizes the need for sustained state participation in the economy, not in opposition to, but in partnership with the private sector like it happens in many other countries. The state is already making significant contribution and investment in our economy. It is currently investing large amounts in infrastructure, in energy, in transport systems, and in building dams and houses. Government promotes economic transformation also by promoting and supporting small, medium businesses, and the government has implemented several measures to attract both foreign and domestic investment. We have been successful, often in partnership with state-owned enterprises, particularly in the form of developmental finance institutions like the IDC and the DBSA, and government also intervenes to deal with challenges of specific sectors in our economy. A recent example is how we have dealt with the steel industry that is facing headwinds. This government is committed to addressing the real impediments to growth in our economy, and as we manage this economy, we are creating a balance between what the state can do on its own and what the state can do in partnership with the private sector. And with that, we continue to seek this balance, and we are confident that as we implement the 9-point plan, our economic woes will be a thing of the past as our economy continues to grow. Now, 2020 is the year that we have set up for ourselves to have an economy, Honorable Shivambo, that will be growing at 5%. And this is not the time to think of abandoning the NDP, not at all. It is an overarching plan of our people, of our country, and we should be able, and in fact I am convinced that we will be able to reach that 5% growth by 2030. Thank you very much.
Honorable Shivambu.
Thank you very much, Honorable Speaker. Just quickly, earlier on, the Chief Whip of the Democratic Alliance said that the Deputy President wants to be president. Well, according to the Premier League, such is not going to happen. He's not going to be president of anything. Because the next president is going to be female. Now, the question is, your NDP's backbone is that there must be capitalist expansion by 5% at least in the next 14 years or 15 years. And all indications in the global economy domestically are such that there will never be any such expansion.
whatever you can do, you can only wish. So it means that your intention to create 11 million jobs, to deal with the education question much more decisively, to industrialize, might not happen because your logic and thinking is that there must be continued capitalist expansion. And we're saying that, don't you think that this is the high time to take a non-capitalist development which will include state-led industrialization, not just throwing money into black industries, but state-anchored industrialization, like was the case in China when it took off from the late 1970s and early 1980s. They're also talking about that. Don't you utilize, why don't you use this space to utilize the available steel and mineral resources to industrialize and deal much more decisively with those issues? So the question is, why don't we involve state participation and take a non-capitalist road towards industrial development? Thank you very much, Deputy President, forever.
Honorable Deputy President.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. I think anyone reading the political economic history of the world will realize that successful economies have, particularly in the modern age, have tended to be those that have harnessed the strength of state-owned enterprises as well as the private sector enterprises. It was Deng Xiaoping who, after 30 years of pure socialist economic development in China, realized that the only way to get China, to catapult China to higher levels of growth, would be to harness the capital of the private sector, to involve the private sector. Remember, in 1949, they had smashed the state and set up state-owned enterprises, and their performance was not at a high level. I'll give you one good example. Their steel production capability was kept at 23 million tons. And it was only after 1979, when they introduced capital from offshore management capabilities that they learned from other capitalist countries, that they integrated them with their own state-owned enterprises, that their steel production rose to 620 million tons. They were wise because they had adopted a system that said, we want to control our economy, but we are going to involve the private sector. Granted, the public sector in China is the dominant player in the economy. In our country, yes, but it is as a result of their history. In 1949, they smashed the state and nationalized everything. In 1994, we did not smash the state. We didn't smash the state, and we had to reach an accommodation with capital in this country, and the capital controls 70% of our economy, and we control 30%. Now, the magic is how you harness the strength of both the private sector and the public sector to create magic and to make sure that your economy grows. That is what China did, and we are investing a lot of money in our economy as the state. The state is currently the biggest investor in our economy, and we are investing in infrastructure. The capital investment in our economy is rising by leaps and bounds, and we are going to turn this economy around, with the state and the private sector playing a key role in the economic trajectory of our country going to 2030. Thank you very much.
The Honorable Hadebe.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Deputy President, the NDP remains one document or strategic plan which has got the support of the most of the people of South Africa. Because it was unanimously adopted by this Parliament, the civil society, business, and labor also supported the NDP. But it is not only the South Africans who supported the NDP, plus our trading partners themselves. Because when they came and engaged us in Parliament, they said that this NDP is good because it can see the future projections of this economy and the areas in which the development is going to be. So, as all the economies in the world reach their peaks and troughs, is the South African government contemplating dropping this good plan because of the first troughs that we're hitting as a country? Thank you.
Deputy President, Honorable.
The South African government has no plans, intention, thought whatsoever to drop the National Development Plan. This has become the most comprehensive plan that has been put forward to the people of South Africa. And the good thing with it is that it was adopted by nearly every party in this parliament. It is our plan. It is our overarching plan that we have now as government translated with the purpose of implementing it more properly into the medium-term strategic framework with clear outcomes, clearly set out outcomes and with clear deliverables. That plan has been dissected to the last iota. It is now in implementation mode. Every quarter, the ministers in President Zuma's government account for how they are implementing the plan, set out the areas of strength and weakness, and actually set out clear time frames with regard to the implementation of the plan. And because it is an overarching plan, it touches on every aspect of South African life. So this has become the most wholesome plan our country has had, and it is deeply embedded on the Freedom Charter, which was adopted 60 years ago. So as we implement this plan, we're essentially implementing the tenets of our Constitution as well as the Freedom Charter. More directly, we have no plan whatsoever to abandon the National Development Plan and indeed the Freedom Charter. This is our plan. It is a plan of the people of South Africa. They own it and they are watching us as we are implementing it. Thank you very much.
The Honorable Mainir.
With respect, Deputy President, the Honourable Deputy Minister of Public Works, Jeremy Cronin, disagrees with you, because the Honourable Deputy Minister tells us the National Development Plan is more of a vision. He tells us that it consists of some useful insights and recommendations, intriguing and untested proposals, summaries of programs, and long underway and much else. And these are all sandwiched, he tells us, between an opening section of cringeworthy poetry and clumsy attempts to present social contract theory. These are not the opposition views, these are the views of government's own National Development Plan. So will the Deputy President tell us whether he agrees with his own Deputy Minister, and if he doesn't agree, whether he agrees with me that the root cause of the problem is that government cannot or indeed will not implement the National Development Plan. And that is why, as the ANC's own documents tell us, South Africa is an underperformer.
The Honourable Deputy President.
It is not my wish to personalize anything in this parliament, but to the extent that you want me to personalize it, I work with Deputy Minister Cronin, and the both of us are leading the charge in implementing the programs that are set out in the National Development Plan. That is what I need to tell you, because you would want us to disown our minister. No, we will not. We will rather disown you, because we will not disown our deputy minister. Now, just coming back to some of the interpretation that you were putting. Oh, the poetry in the National Development Plan is so well crafted. The Deputy Minister is a poet himself. He is a poet himself, and you should take time and read his poems, because maybe that will be eye-opening. It will open the pores of your thinking if you were to read his poems. Now, the National Development Plan, being the overarching plan of the government, is a plan that we are all implementing. What you have said and what the Deputy Minister has said in his reading of the plan is not mutually exclusive. We are together in implementing this plan. So there are no contradictions. Where you are seeing contradictions, it's as a result of your double vision, because I'm sure maybe you don't see clearly. We are joined, yeah, because you wear glasses. I am only double visioned when I read, when I put on my glasses, but you are permanently double visioned. So we are committed, all of us are committed to implementing the National Development Plan. There are no contradictions, there is no doubt, there is no hesitation on this side of the House about implementing the National Development Plan. Thank you very much.
The Honorable Esther Reason.
Thank you, Speaker. Honorable Deputy President, the National Development Plan, it's a very good idea to begin with, and it's already driven by the state, by the way, but it might never be implemented because of the many challenges and changing circumstances impacting South Africa on a daily basis. We see business confidence in South Africa falling to a recent low of 84.3%. That's on the Business Comfort Index. This is largely due, and admittingly so, by the global financial market turmoil. But the biggest threat, Honourable Deputy President, must be the plan for socio-economic development in this country, which, when taking into account the variables such as the energy supply, labour and unions, and a hostile labour market, and the numerous other challenges. My question is, Honourable Deputy President, if government cannot deal with the volatile and changing socio-economic patterns and adequately plan for the same, how do we expect business to find comfort in the long-term strategy in South Africa and to embrace the NDP? Thank you.
Honourable Deputy President.
One thing that you cannot fault this government for is its bravery, its courage to deal with all the difficult challenges that we face. You just alluded to some of them. We are dealing with great challenges such as the labor situation, lack of investment, energy challenge. You haven't had load shedding now for easily more than 30 days. We are stabilizing ESCOM, and we told you so. We told you that we would stabilize ESCOM, and it is happening right in front of your eyes. And maybe you are blind and you don't see. We are stabilizing, and maybe you are lack of hearing, and maybe we need to repeat it over and over again. We are dealing with our challenges like any other country in the world. We are not shy of dealing with them, and where we have weaknesses, we admit them, and where we have failings, we admit them. We are that type of government. Now, when it comes to the business community, our president on an ongoing basis interacts with business leaders with a view of, yes, increasing the business confidence, and he invites them to come forward with proposals, and he invites them to invest in their own economy. At the NEDLEC level, a number of our ministers, Minister of Labour, Economic Planning, and others participate with all our social partners. And we are going to hold a summit on Friday where we are going to deal with the economic challenges that face our country. Now, we have this interactive relationship with the business community, with social organizations or NGOs, as well as unions. You don't find that easily in many other countries in the world. We are one of the unique countries that deals with difficult problems with all our social partners, and this is being done so that we can get ideas. The business community must come forward with ideas, put them on the table so that we can see whether they have any efficacy, so that we can inject them in the economic growth that we should be having. And we invite them to invest in their own economy, because the government is investing big bucks in the economy of our country. Thank you very much.
We now move to question number 19, asked by the Honorable Masango to the Deputy President. Honorable Deputy President.
Honorable Speaker, this year marks the 60th anniversary of the adoption of the Freedom Charter, which is clearly the bedrock on which our democratic value system is founded. The Charter affirms that South Africa and its people unequivocally pledge to respect the rights and sovereignty of all nations, and to recognize the independence and the right to self-determination of African countries or nations. The draft white paper on South Africa's foreign policy elaborates on this theme. It says, as a beneficiary of many acts of selfless solidarity in the past, South Africa believes strongly that what it wishes for its people should be what it wishes for the citizens of the world. In pursuing our national interests, our decisions are informed by a desire for a just, humane, and equitable world order of greater security, peace, dialogue, and economic justice. We are an African country whose fortunes are inextricably connected and linked with those of our sister countries in the region and on the continent. Our foreign policy engagements are therefore anchored on the African agenda. Paramount to the achievement of this agenda is the social and economic development of the continent and the promotion of peace, security, and stability throughout the continent. South Africa has been actively involved in initiatives such as the Millennium Development Goals and the plan of implementation of the World Summit on Sustainable Development. We have been centrally involved in the development and implementation of a number of key instruments that have emanated from our continent. And some of those instruments are the AU Constitutive Act, the New Partnership for Africa's Development, NEPAD, the Africa Peer Review Mechanism, the PRM, and the protocol relating to the establishment of the Peace and Security Council of the African Union. At the level of the Southern African Development Community, SADC, we have been actively engaged in authoring its principal development and regional integration instruments. South Africa has been part of Africa's effort to restore peace and stability in strife-torn countries like the DRC, Burundi, and the Republic of Sudan, as well as South Sudan. The values that have guided our foreign policy engagements have led to the expansion of bilateral relations with other countries on the continent and have also led to enhancing trade and investment. While we can proudly celebrate the work we have done in the international sphere, we are acutely aware of the developmental and security challenges humanity faces. We are nevertheless convinced that the approach we as a country have taken in forging relationships with the rest of the world remains valid, relevant, and progressive. It is an approach that recognizes the reality that states are indeed interdependent. It is an approach that promotes cooperation over competition and collaboration over confrontation. It is an approach, Madam Speaker, that advances the national interests while advancing the common interests of all nations. Thank you.
The Honorable Masango.
Yathokoza ma unomlomo angithokoze isekela lika Mongameli ngehlathululo edzimeleleko kijamana iveka namalangana umbuzo landelela wami uthi to give effect to the principle of the Freedom Charter's principle that I quote there shall be peace and friendship unquote, how far has South Africa worked collaboratively and or in solidarity with other countries, institutions, or multilateral organs to realize this peacemaking and peace enforcement vision? Thank you.
Honorable Deputy President.
Honorable Speaker, we as a country are actively, and I could say deeply involved in the process of peacemaking on the African continent, and we do this under the aegis of the AU, and there we are ably led by one of our very own, Dr. Nkosazana Zuma Dlamini, who, as one of our own, has injected quite a lot of energy and life in what the whole African continent is now doing. And we now participate in a number of countries, the DRC and the Sudan and a number of other places, and we are called upon to come and participate, largely because a number of African countries and indeed regional bodies and the AU itself see that we have something to contribute. And as we do this with great humility, never imposing ourselves, never putting ourselves forward, never seeking to gain anything, and never seeking to serve our own interests. Our interests, yes, are to promote peace and security on the continent, and where we have the opportunity to promote investment and trade with a view of fostering the success and the development also of other countries as we do that for ourselves. So we are deeply involved in various initiatives, and we were honored as well when our president was asked to chair the infrastructure thrust of the continent, and in that regard he has been doing well as well. Our former President Thabo Mbeki was also honored, and our country was honored in that regard of leading a process of dealing with issues of the flight of capital from our continent. So we are deeply involved in a number of ways on the continent, and as I said, we do that with a great deal of humility. And what one would say is that we would wish that all of us as leaders in our country, when we have to travel to various other parts of the African continent and indeed the world, we should all join each other and exercise our patriotism and speak positively about our country like others do when they travel overseas and speak positively about our country. Now, this is an open invitation to the other people who sit on the other side. When you travel, don't go and badmouth the country. Go and speak positively about your country.
The Honorable Makhalapa.
Thank you very much, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Deputy President, you have referred to AU key instruments. One of them is Article 10 of the African Charter of Democracy, Elections and Government, which was adopted by the Assembly of African Union Heads of States. It imposes a duty on state parties to entrench the supremacy of their constitutions. We have seen in recent months that leaders in states of Burundi, Rwanda, and the DRC have pushed through constitutional amendments in efforts to seek the extension of their term limits in office. And this has become a catalyst for renewed political conflicts. Mr. Deputy President, it seems that South Africa's foreign policy is clueless and immoral at best and chaotic at worst. So the question is, what is your government's policy on working to prevent African presidents violating their constitutional term limits? I thank you.
The Honorable Deputy President.
If you took care to read what is in the Freedom Charter, you would immediately have an answer to your question. Our policy stance in relation to various other countries is based on the respect of those countries' sovereignty. It is based on the respect of their self-determination, and it is based on what was also adopted in the 50s in Bandung of non-interference in the internal affairs of other countries. Having said that, what we do acting with others in a multilateral way is where we find that there's slippage on this and that, maybe various principles like democratic principles, is to use our powers of persuasion, because in the end, that is the best diplomatic tool that one can use, of being able to discuss, to have dialogue, to cooperate with others. And where, for instance, we are invited to give our views, we do give the views that we hold on to that are deeply embedded in our Constitution, the views that we all adopted when we passed our own Constitution. So when you say we are clueless, I don't know what you mean by that, because our international policy is based on having a clear direction which is inspired and informed by the Freedom Charter, by our Constitution, and by our policy document as adopted also. So we do what we have to do and lead our country in navigating the various challenges that we come across as we implement our foreign policy. Our foreign policy is very progressive. It cannot be faulted. And those who fault our foreign policy do not know what diplomacy is all about. We know diplomacy, we are well schooled in diplomacy, and we are actually implementing the best foreign policy that this country has ever had. This country has never had a clear foreign policy. That is what we are implementing. Thank you very much.
The Honorable Matthias.
Motlatsa President, ka bano so kilo ya Lesotho makgatlo a mmalwa ke nana o tla tseba se ke tla hlalosa e re ke go tlabola hanyane he Mosotho o re matlo a matle du otlwana a bolela hore o kike wa tloa ha hawa ha monne mong wa fitla wa fiela le bala la hae empa o sitwa o fiela la ha o ba le mesebetsi ya hao le ya puso ya hao mane marikana mo o ile wa dumella hore ba sebetsi ba bolawe ba etswe ntho tsena tse mpe yo hlokisa tokelo ya hore ka tswa wa ya Africa ka bona Lesotho wa ya kopanya mekgatlo e bang ha e utlwane ka puo bakeng sa ho rarolla dikabang tsa bona ka ho you have dishonored the trust and the confidence of the founding fathers who have called upon you and your organization to tirelessly work for the unity of the African people by your conduct in South Africa. Now, my question is, how do you hope to, without fear of self-contradiction, that you'll be able to mediate without you being so much conflicted? Because it's a fact that you're conflicted, you've got business interests, just as the president, your president has business interests in Lesotho, and that is the reason why the Basotho people are fighting among themselves. My question is, how does the Deputy President hope to mediate for a permanent solution of the conflict in Lesotho, despite him being so much conflicted because of business vested interests in Lesotho and those of his president?
Honorable Deputy President.
Ntate Matthias, bomadimabe ke bona kore rona re a bitswa. Rona re le South Africa, re le mmuso wa South Africa re a bitswa, ba re kopa ba re e tlo nkwana. A se nthwane e wena o no ka ithabela hore o impose ho batho ba bang. Rona re a bitswa re a kopjwa, ba re go kopa hore o tlo thusa o kenye letsoho, o re thuse ho rarolla mathata a re leng ho ona. Ntho eno ba etsa ka hobane ba tseba mesebetsi ya rona re le South Africa, ba e tseba ehlile ba tseba le mesebetsi ya baetapele ba rona. Baetapele ba rona ba sa qaleng ka nna le President Zuma ho tloha kgale mokgatlo wona wa ANC o na le baetapele ba ne ba sebeletsa Afrika kaofela, ba leka hore ho be le ho sebetsa hantle dinaheng tse ding. So what you are saying about being conflicted, nenga kopa hore o hlahise bopaki o bube mona pepeneneng re bone hore bopaki ana bo teng. Ke ile ka hlalosa kgetlong lane le fitileng ke jwetsa Honorable Malema le yena. Ke ne ke hlalosetsa le yena, empa o re ke ska mo kenya ka bane tsena ha batlo re a kenywe ho tsona. Jwale e re ke hlalosetse wena he hore haeba o na le bopaki bo be tafoleng, o ska bua ntho o sa itsebeng. Ka Sesotho hothi o ska wa bua dintho tse o sa di tsebeng, o bue nnete fela. So ke batla nnete ho wena ntate wa ka. Aibe nnete e ska ba mabari fela o ntso o tsamaya hohle mona o bua ntho e seng teng ebile o bua maka. Dankie ntate.
The Honorable Mngwango.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker, Honorable Deputy President. My question is, how does South Africa's recent flouting of an ICC arrest warrant in the Bashir debacle impact on our standing in the international community of nations? Are we now being seen as a country not to be trusted, not to be in good faith in terms of international agreements? How do you intend to repair our internationally damaged reputation in the wake of the Bashir debacle? I thank you.
The Honorable Deputy President.
The answer is no. Our international standing is intact. It is clearly intact. The President will soon be traveling to the United Nations for the general meetings. Whilst he is there, try to make yourself a fly on the wall and watch the President being feted, being received, being called upon to meet various other heads of state. Our President and South Africa is really so popular. It is the darling of the countries of the world. Whenever President Zuma travels, whenever he travels, they want to meet him. There are times when he asks me to deputize on his behalf, and whenever I go and meet other heads of state, they always say, where is my brother Jacob Zuma? Where is my brother Jacob Zuma? Pass my greetings on to him. So that is a clear indication. If you could make yourself a fly on the wall, I would invite you to do so when he travels to the UN. Thank you.
We come to question number 20, asked by the Honorable Singh. I don't see Honorable Singh. However, please, Deputy President, I believe Mr. Mngwango will take the supplementary. Honorable Deputy President.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. South Africa's engagement with other countries aims, amongst other things, to increase bilateral trade and investment. They also provide an opportunity to share experiences on economic and social and technological development. The recent visit to Japan, for example, aimed to strengthen relations with Japan and to identify opportunities for collaboration in areas such as innovation, technology transfer, minerals beneficiation, renewable energy, advanced manufacturing, and agro-processing. On our recent trip, Minister Naledi Pandor was there, Deputy Minister Cele was there, Deputy Minister Masina was there, and a number of other key government officials. We had gone there to sign a number of agreements, particularly on the technology transfer side. The Japanese can teach us a lot, but so can we. And that is the type of exchange that we had gone to seal there. The visit contributed to the advancement of Africa's agenda by furthering and strengthening the Tokyo International Conference on Africa Partnership. This partnership promotes trade, investment, growth, and infrastructure development on the African continent. The Japanese government undertook to assist South Africa with its energy diversification efforts by transferring energy-saving technology to our country. It also committed to advancing the implementation of the joint study on economic cooperation and undertaking training programs to upskill South Africans in line with our Black Industrialist program. South Africa undertakes bilateral engagements with a number of other countries around the world to promote trade, investment, skills and technology transfer, and also to promote broader economic growth and cooperation. These engagements have resulted, amongst other things, in deepening business linkages between our country and those countries, increased investment in South Africa. Japan stands out as one notable one, where after we met, the business community said, we want to invest more in your country. And the 130 companies that are here from Japan, all almost in unison said, we are there to stay because we found South Africa to have the stability that we require to foster our investments. And we also have agreements on scientific and technological cooperation and general promotion of South Africa as a desirable investment destination. These engagements, Madam Speaker, also provided an opportunity to learn from the experiences of other countries that have been successful in pursuing economic growth and social development. South Africa's economic success depends in large measure on its ability to grow foreign direct investment and significantly expand and diversify its exports. This makes such bilateral engagements even more important and more valuable. So these trips, honorable members, are really valuable because they give us a great opportunity. Lastly, let me say, we also had an opportunity, Madam Speaker, to meet a number of South African students who are on scholarship in Japan. They've learned the Japanese language. They are now doing their master's degrees. These are young men and women who are doing extremely well, and all of them, almost in unison, said, we want to come back home. We will be ready to come back home with our skills, and we will come to work for the further development of our country. That is something we can be proud of. Thank you very much.
The Honorable Mwango.
Honorable Speaker, I just want to make a correction. I was at your table earlier to inform you that the Honourable S. Raisen will be taking care of the follow-up on behalf of the Honourable Singh.
The Honourable S. Raisen.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Honourable Deputy President, Whilst I do agree that favorable relations with other countries must be encouraged as a way of positively growing our economy and addressing critical skill shortages, my question is though, in the huge delegation to Japan, which included NEXCO officials, how do you justify seeking to attract essential skills from Japan in the fields of science and technology, and especially in the field of nuclear energy, while we have them right here in South Africa? In fact, I was advised yesterday by a senior official at Kuberg Nuclear Power Station that South Africa already has skilled nuclear scientists that are amongst the most highly qualified in the world. As a matter of fact, Safari One training facility at Kuberg sponsors nuclear science at UCT that attracts students from all over the world. Thank you.
Honorable Deputy President.
I was really scratching my head, trying to take in what you have said, and I couldn't believe that I was hearing you saying that because we've got these, don't send others away. Now let me tell you, those young men and women who are in Japan are all black. They are all black. They are coming back with great skills. And many of them will tell you that we did not, when we started off with our learning process, we did not find it easy to be so well received in the South African institutions. Now, they have chosen to go and learn elsewhere, but put that aside. There's nothing wrong in anyone going overseas to go and learn something new. That is something that can be quite defining, life-changing, and we are a multidisciplinary type of country, or learning processes must be multidisciplinary. We must involve everyone who knows something, and even those who have learned overseas and those who have learned locally. We should never put brakes on young people who want to go and learn elsewhere and say, no, you should not go to Japan, no, you should not go to England because we've got enough. And I will tell you something else. When we started training, and I hope you are listening, Honorable Member, when we started training actuaries in our country, a university professor said to me, why should we train more actuaries because we've already got 450 in the country? And only one of them was black. And I said, we need actuaries and we need black actuaries. It was only then that the penny dropped for him, and today we've almost got 50 black actuaries and 70 more in the pipeline. We are increasing the number of those. Now, if we had listened to him and the type of statement that you are putting forward, we would have stopped in our tracks, and our young black people would never have had an opportunity to be trained. So we've broadened and opened up the places of learning because we want our young people to learn wherever they can learn. The whole world should be a place where they can go and learn. We should never restrict them. Thank you very much.
Madam Speaker, just in respect, that's absolutely not what I asked the Deputy President. I actually said, why did he go headhunting there, not to send students over there? They try to employ
Honorable Esterhazy, can I pass on to the next person, Honorable Hill Lewis?
Thank you very much, Speaker. I'm so pleased that the Deputy President had a comfortable flight over to Japan for that trip. But in his response, he mentioned a lot about investment and growing the investment relationship with Japan, which I found very interesting because while he was there, the Minister of Trade and Industry was tabling the Promotion and Protection of Investment Bill here in Parliament, which would better be dubbed the Prevention of Investment Bill. That bill, Speaker, has as its genesis the replacement and cancellation of precisely the kind of agreement the Deputy President was trying to agree in Japan, the bilateral investment treaties. So this gives rise to two questions in relation to his recent efforts to build new bilateral trade relationships with Japan and the other countries he has mentioned. Number one, why is the Deputy President establishing new trade and investment relationships with some countries, but his government is cancelling bilateral agreements with other countries? Could he enumerate for us which countries are good for a bilateral agreement and which are not good? And secondly, does his recent effort not contradict the purpose of the bill tabled, which is to obviate the need for bilateral agreements? Thank you.
Honourable Deputy President.
In pursuing our foreign policy, the foreign policy is underpinned by our need to grow investments in our country, as well as to promote trade. And we will therefore, in pursuing these objectives, seek to enter into agreements with as many countries as possible. And agreements that were entered into in the past may need either to be streamlined, to be amended, to be improved, and that is the process that is underway. The honourable member should know that the Japanese business people will be here in a few days, and they will be holding a seminar which they've asked me to come and open, and they are coming fast on the heels of our visit to Japan because they want to invest further here. Their investment or export promotion entity called JETRO is going to be holding a seminar here together with our own local businesses. Why are they doing so? They're doing so because they want to further invest in our country. They want to deepen their own understanding of the investment environment in our country. They want to form partnerships with a number of other companies in our country, particularly your emerging black industrialist companies, and therefore there is no hindrance whatsoever, particularly on the Japan side, and indeed from any other country. Later, President Zuma and myself will be traveling with ministers to various other countries. And as we travel, what we're seeking to do is to promote investment by those countries into South Africa and our trade dealings with them. And nothing else is going to deter us from doing so. If we have to enter into agreements, we will be doing so. If we have to amend agreements, we will be doing so with a view of streamlining those agreements that we have entered into. So what you are dealing here with in terms of the legislation, go ahead and enable our ability to go and seek investments to come to South Africa so that we can create jobs. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
The Honourable Musala.
Thank you, Speaker. Deputy President, what investment plans has the Japanese business community and government committed in consolidating the objectives of the African agenda through the Tokyo International Conference on Development, partnership in promoting, firstly, increased investment, growth, and infrastructure development in support of Agenda 2063. Thank you.
Honourable Deputy President.
A number of initiatives are going to be considered at the next TICAD meeting, which is going to be held, I think, in Kenya. The Prime Minister of Japan is going to be coming to the African continent together with a number of other ministers from Japan. And at that meeting, which will also be attended by our President, a number of African leaders will get together and discuss the extent to which we can get Japan to cooperate on an equal basis with the African continent in fostering investment in a number of areas, particularly in trade, as well as in infrastructure. And Japan wants a number of other African countries to trade with them. And we are well placed because we already have up to 130 of these companies working here. So we are a very strong platform to facilitate that type of economic activity for a number of other African countries. Now, Japan is obviously also on its own looking at a number of areas where it can expand. We had great joy in testing out a vehicle that Toyota has developed in Japan, which is powered by fuel cells. And fuel cells uses the platinum as a catalyst, and they are going to be rolling out these types of cars in a big way. And South Africa is well placed to benefit from this type of economic activity. And so therefore, Japan and South Africa, and indeed Japan and Africa, are going to continue strengthening their investment and trade ties. And in our case, we want to strengthen our industrial base. They are warmly disposed towards helping us develop our own industrial base and development, and also promoting black industrialists. So we are well positioned with Japan. Africa is well positioned with Japan, and we can look forward to a future where we have good relations with Japan as we continue to develop and grow our own economy. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
The Honorable Sheikh Imam.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Deputy President, I think you have, in your last response, alluded to most of what I was going to actually ask. However, economic development, job creation, Honorable Deputy President, go hand in hand. What role will you play in placing emphasis on the manufacturing industry for the purposes of export and local consumption, bringing in experts with skills from China, Japan, to enhance the manufacturing industry in South Africa, and place more emphasis on exporting to create more jobs, create more industries, more entrepreneurs in this country, as a result thereof, and including partnership agreements where South African businessmen will own 51% to maybe 49% of those that are investing in the country, which will actually stimulate and create economic development in the country. Thank you.
Honorable Deputy President.
All of the above is precisely what we want to do and foster. We were fortunate enough to be accompanied by a fairly large business delegation of fairly serious businessmen and women from our country who participated in a business roundtable in Tokyo, and they were able to exchange views and ideas, and some of them were even able to either finalize contracts and deals that they were busy with. So that was actually a joy to watch, that as they travel with the President and the Deputy President on these trips, it is not just paying lip service to joint travel. It is actually something that leads to business deals that in the end will either lead to export, to outside our country, and investment into our country. So there is a great deal of benefit in that regard. But other than that, one of the things that we have learned is that other countries have been able to develop their own economies by studying what other countries have done. We know for a fact that for China to get to the level where they are, they actually traveled around the world and saw how other successful countries had gone about growing their own economies. Deng Xiaoping was the one leader of China who went around a number of countries, France, Japan, and a number of places to see how they are running their economies. He went back to China and turned China around with regards to what he had seen and learned. Now, we've told them our story. We told them as we travel around that we want to increase manufacturing in our country. We want to industrialize our country. And we found that they respond well. And many of them are willing to come and invest. Many of them are willing that we should go and learn their skills, management skills, technological skills, and also to see how the innovative journeys that they have taken have led them to higher levels of growth. We are learning from that because we want to also be innovative. We want to be able to create new things, new industries with a view of growing our economy. So we are at work. We are doing a lot of things, learning from others, and our economy will take off and it will create jobs like you have never seen before. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Honorable Deputy President. That concludes questions to the Deputy President, and I also thank the honorable members. The next item on the order paper is questions addressed to ministers in the economics cluster. Question number 460 has been asked by the Honorable Maseko to the Minister of Science and Technology. The Minister.
Thank you very much, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, we have essentially 5 contact points or instruments that are utilized in order to reach young people and promote science, engineering, technology, and innovation careers. The first would be a science engagement strategy that's implemented by the department. It includes attention to learners, but also addresses public engagement on science, engineering, and technology. The second is a youth into science strategy. The third is, of course, reaching out to schools. Fourthly, using universities and science councils. And fifthly, we touch teachers and professionals working within the SETI domain. Our intention is to make the science careers as attractive, relevant, and accessible as possible to stimulate interest by young people in these careers and to enhance broadly South African literacy in SETI. We act through these instruments by producing and distributing books on careers annually to schools throughout the country. We distribute these through the National Science Week, through our 8 science festivals that are held annually, as well as through a range of partnership arrangements with all provincial departments of education. We also would promote careers during the ministerial public participation programs, as well as mount career exhibitions on a regular basis at the 34 science centers that are located throughout South Africa. We also send science, engineering, and technology role models to schools as career role models. They also mount career fairs, as well as host speaking engagements at science centers and during science festivals. With respect to partnership with the Department of Basic Education, we adopted a new framework of actions in partnership with the Department of Basic Education to support their work in promoting science, technology, and engineering. The following are some of the activities. We have development of complementary educational materials, providing real-world examples to young people in schools and, of course, to teachers as well. We run summer and winter schools. We have talent identification programs. And, of course, in South Africa annually, we have over 3,000 young people participating in the STEM Olympiads, as well as in competitions which are mounted by the Department of Science and Technology. So we have a range of activities intended to both support teachers, improve their capacity in these scientific teaching domains, as well as activities that make science exciting, accessible, and of interest to young people in our country. Thank you very much, Chairperson.
Thank you, Honourable Minister. Is there a supplementary question from the Honourable Maseko?
Thank you very much, House Chair. And thank you very much, Honourable Minister, for the elaborative response to the question. It shows that the African National Congress government and its ministers is indeed doing a great job in educating
us as members and the broader citizenry. And also it does ensure that science and technology is the way to go and will take this, the economy of the Republic of South Africa to higher heights. Honorable Minister, keep quiet, it's none of your business. Honorable Minister, with the vibe that has been created by the National Science Week and the increase in the participants of the science weeks that takes place in the country, we have seen that there's a demonstration of a lot of upcoming young scientists that are interested now in science and technology. Will the department have sufficient research chairs to absorb this enthusiasm and influx into science and technology? And if so, or if yes, how many of such chairs are women? Thank you, Honorable Minister.
Honorable Minister.
Ke a leboga modulasetulo ke utlwa baetapele ba bangwe ba re ke botswa potso e ka gore moemedi wa rona wa nthata ga ke itse gore ke mang o ka ratang go bereka le batho ba sa mo rateng ke tshologela gore ba dirang le ntate o tlholang a nna fale le bone ba mo rata yaka rona re batla go ratiwa. With respect to the research chairs, Chairperson, we have established 6 research chairs in the fields of mathematics, science, and technology education. We have 4 in mathematics education and 2 that are established in numeracy. These chairs have been established as a community of practice. They come together to share ideas which are intended to enhance contribution to our objective of the National Strategy for Mathematics, Science and Technology Education, which is a strategy developed by the Department of Basic Education. With respect to the matter of gender, I'm very pleased to be able to tell the House that just a year ago we announced the creation of 20 more research chairs in addition to the 157 that existed at that time, and we indicated that all 20 would be designated for appointment of women professors and researchers who fit the bill in terms of these important research chairs. I'm pleased to indicate that we received such excellent applicants that we indeed appointed 42 women research chairs in addition to the 20 we'd announced. This showed us that our institutions are not transforming fast enough, are not recognizing women researchers who all are based in institutions at present and should have been given this opportunity many years ago. Thank you very much, Chairperson.
Thank you, Honorable Minister. The next 3 supplementary questions will be asked by the Honorable Schlengwa, the Honorable Lotriet, and the Honorable Mbata. The Honorable Schlengwa.
Thank you very much, Honorable House Chair. Honorable Minister, previously disadvantaged communities still find themselves presently disadvantaged, and there is a serious backlog in terms of keeping up in terms of the delivery of infrastructure. So the issue, Honorable Deputy Minister, Honorable Minister, is, my apologies. The issue is, what is being done by your department, particularly in light of the new framework that you just spoke about with the Department of Basic Education, to ensure that the necessary infrastructure in schools, particularly your laboratories, is made available? Because without a comprehensive bottom-up approach to ensure that we go back to basics and cultivate the scientists that we want at school level, we're going to have a serious problem trying to develop them in institutions of higher learning. So that should become a priority. So we want to find out, does this new framework cover that, and if so, the relevant details, and when can we see really laboratories being developed and built in schools, particularly in previously disadvantaged communities? Thank you.
The Honorable Minister.
Well, I'll attempt to answer, but I do think the question as to laboratories is something the Minister of Basic Education should answer. As you know, with respect to the ASIDI, school building program, which is an accelerated infrastructure development initiative, the standard with respect to a school, which emerges out of the norms and standard in the Schools Act amendment, clearly stipulates that any new school built must have all the required facilities, which would include laboratories as well as libraries and media resource centers for technology studies. So the new schools that we've seen built in the past few years have included such facilities. With respect to my department, all that we can do is be of support where we're able to do so. So what we have developed, in line with assistance from a number of our research councils, such as the CSIR, for example, are very portable, exciting and useful science kits that we provide to schools. We also have a mobile science laboratory that we are able to deploy to schools that ask us to provide assistance. I would like to see every school in the country, particularly every FET level school, having a science laboratory, but whenever we are asked to assist, we're able to provide the scientific equipment, the kits I've referred to, which include all that you need for carrying out the basic experiments in the FET phase of the curriculum, your pipettes, as well as the basic chemicals and so on. But the prize is to ensure that every secondary school in the country has a laboratory and that every primary school has a facility where children can begin to come closer to science. We're moving towards that. The rules and the laws have been changed in order to ensure that our schools are very different from the schools built under Bantu education, and that these facilities do exist. But we still have a long road to travel, but I'm sure Minister of Basic Education can provide you with the detailed statistics of the progress with the ASIDI program. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Honourable Minister. The Honourable Lottrit.
Thank you, Chairperson. Honourable Minister, you have referred to what you are doing to promote maths and science among the pupils. And I also have to commend you with the wonderful programs that your department does have. I think you really putting us on the map. However, Minister, there is a serious disconnect between the Department of Science and Technology and the reality of where the learners come from. In other words, Department of Basic Education. We sit with a situation that there is a regress in performance, there's a decrease in the number of learners doing maths and science. And although I know that you said that it is the Department of Basic Education's responsibility, Minister, we have a problem where we have, for example, SATU threatening to boycott the honours. The one instrument we do have to determine the quality and the level of our learners in terms of maths, numeracy or literacy. So my question to you, Minister, is as a member of Cabinet, as the collective, what are you doing and what do you plan doing to get across the message that SATU cannot spoil the future of our children? The country needs students in maths and science, and there's a real threat.
Honourable Member, your time is now expired.
That all
the
your
Honourable
wonderful
Minister.
plans will come to naught. Thank you.
Thank you very much to the Honourable Lottering. Clearly, it is the intention of government to ensure that we do expand and increase the numbers of young people that are competent in mathematics, physical science, and life sciences. This is the reason why the Minister of Basic Education worked to develop the strategy that I've referred to, which I'm sure the Portfolio Committee has been briefed on. We are partners with the Department of Basic Education in implementing this strategy. But beyond that, the activities I've referred to, which are seeing expanded numbers of young people coming into the Olympiad, writing the Maths Olympiad, and interestingly, doing exceptionally well in international Olympiad competitions. We have the talent in our country. What we've got to do is ensure that we expand all the resources, that we provide the necessary support, and that we are absolutely clear that if we want to advance in innovation, in manufacturing, in the range of areas that were referred to by Deputy President earlier. We've got to get young people who are competent in maths and in science. We work with teachers as well as learners, and I've met enthusiasm. But what has been first prize for me has been the positive response I get from provincial departments of education, always supportive of our initiative and with us when we come into the various schools. So we'll continue with the message. Made it clear to young people. I try and reach as many as I can to say to them, if you want South Africa to have a better future, if you wish to have a bright future, maths, science, engineering, and innovation are where you should go. And I see more and more young people really intrigued by these disciplines and keen to take up careers in these areas. So I believe the future is very bright for science, engineering, technology, and innovation. Thank you.
Thank you, Honourable Minister. The Honourable Mbata.
Thank you, Chair. The reality, Honourable Minister, is that the majority of the schools in rural areas and also in majority of those who are in the settings of the townships do not have functioning laboratories. And maybe we should phrase the question. What is it that is going to be done by both basic and your department to ensure that the schools, at least both at combined and secondary level, have got laboratories that function, that are at an equivalence, at least, of a tested career for a soon-to-be graduating from a high school. Majority of these schools do not actually have proper functioning equipment that levels them on par, that makes them to be competitive as young people, and as such, we are failing them.
The Honourable Minister.
Thank you very much, Chairperson. I don't wish Honourable Mbata to be repetitive, but I must say that I agree with you. We don't have these facilities in all rural schools, but where we can make a difference, we are doing so. I've come across several schools during public engagement or constituency programs where I find a school has a space that is called a laboratory. It might have desks, tables that are supposed to be where experiments are done, but there are no test tubes, the chemicals are very old, you don't have pipettes, there isn't a proper water supply, so essentially science cannot be done. When I come across such a problem, I immediately send an intervention team. We've created one, and we assist the school in order to get the laboratory to the functional status that you mentioned. But we cannot continue in that way. First prize is we must ensure all the facilities are up and running. We're working together with Minister Mochecha to ensure that we do provide the necessary support. And I can assure you, because I visit the new schools that are being built, the situation is changing every day. And it will continue to change because the African National Congress is absolutely determined that the doors of learning and culture in all domains shall indeed be opened to the children of this country. Thank you very much, Chairperson.
Thank you, Honourable Minister. Honourable members, we will now go to question 456 that have been asked by the Honourable Koornhof to the Minister of Trade and Industry. The Honourable Minister.
Thank you, House Chair. House Chair, available statistics point to iron and steel imports increasing by 52.9% between the fourth quarter of last year and the first quarter of this year, to reach a total of 544,269 tons. Of this total, 285,997 tons came from China, whose imports increased by 53.3% from December last year, from the fourth quarter last year to the first quarter this year. China accordingly accounted for about 52.5% of South Africa's iron and steel imports. The surge in imports reflected in these figures threatens the sustainability and viability of the local primary steel industry, particularly as many of these imports are being landed at significantly lower prices than those prevailing for locally made products, and have eroded the demand for local products, even forcing some local producers to sell some product lines at below cost. Other factors, including underinvestment in plant and machinery, rising import costs, including with respect to electricity, have further eroded the competitiveness of domestic steel producers. Given the global glut of steel and the consequent fall in prices, penetration of South Africa's traditional regional export markets by other supply countries has also negatively impacted on our exports of steel products. Primary steel products, to come to the second question, primary steel products until recently were imported into South Africa free of duty, while WTO rules allowed us to have a maximum bound rate of 10%. 12 applications covering a number of product lines were submitted by a number of steel producers to the International Trade Administration Commission, ITAC. One of these applications covered an application for a tariff increase for galvanized and coated steel, and this was finalized recently by ITAC, as required by law, I was presented with a recommendation to raise the tariff to the maximum bound rate of 10%, and I signed that off recently. That application included a set of conditions related to pricing, related to investments and job retention, and also established a monitoring mechanism which includes the Department of Trade and Industry and the Economic Development Department to monitor compliance in this regard. In addition, ITAC will conduct a review of the duty structure to determine its impact on the industry value chain 3 years from the date of implementation, with an immediate review of the tariff dispensation in the event of any default on the conditions. While the DTI agrees in principle to an increase of tariffs under the prevailing conditions of global oversupply of primary steel products threatening our own local production, each tariff and anti-dumping application will be evaluated on its merits. Overall, a balance has to be struck between protecting South Africa's primary steel production, including by smaller steel producers, while ensuring that there's a competitively priced steel available to support downstream, more labor-intensive, value-added manufacturing. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Honourable Minister. Is there a follow-up question from the Honourable Koornhof?
Thank you, Chairperson. Thank you, Minister, for the reply. I think we've been overtaken a little bit by events since I've posted the question on the order paper. But however, this tariff increase is only limited to a number of ranges of steel. Will it be increased? Can you maybe comment on that? And further, by allowing this tariff, does it mean it will give the steel industry a green light to raise prices, or is it in the conditions not to allow it?
The Honourable Minister.
No, thank you very much, Honourable Koornhof. We are aware that other applications for other steel products have been submitted to ITAC to raise the MFN duty. As I said already, the maximum bound rate is 10%. We're also aware that other applications have been prepared for anti-dumping duties, which could potentially attract higher duties. No, certainly they do not have the green light to raise prices. In fact, one of the conditions says quite clearly that they may not raise prices as a result of the tariff increase. The tariff increase is intended to allow the local steel manufacturers to compete more effectively against imported steel products, which will come in at a higher price, not to allow them to simply raise the price of their own products. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Honourable Minister. The next supplementary questions will be asked by the Honourable Esterhuizen, the Honourable Hill Lewis, and the Honourable Shavambu. The Honourable Esterhuizen.
Thank you, House Chair. Honourable Minister, the essence of this question is actually about a tariff protection in order to safeguard jobs. Honourable Minister, after ArcelorMittal was provided with the tariff protection that I requested, they still proceeded to lay off hundreds of workers. My question is, not only the protection, why are providing big steel producers like ArcelorMittal with such kind of tariff protection that will only serve to deny downstream manufacturers the benefits of cheaper global steel prices, and I might add the benefits which they richly deserve after the very same ArcelorMittal's price gouging? Thank you.
The Honourable Minister.
Well, I did say that we have a task team that includes representatives of our department as well as the Economic Development Department. We will be monitoring any practices with regards to job layoffs where there have been commitments that this will not happen, at least on any significant scale. Let me say also that we actually think that the atmosphere for the discussions about pricing policy have significantly improved under the circumstances that we find ourselves in. Over a long period of time, we have been concerned about the pricing policies that have been followed by upstream steel manufacturers. The fact of the matter is, I think that what we're facing is the real possibility of losing a significant part of South African's primary steel production. If that happened, that would not be to the benefit of South African manufacturing. It would not be to our benefit to rely in the long term simply on imported steel. But what we have to do is to defend the productive capacity in primary steel manufacturing, while at the same time not allowing the primary steel manufacturers to simply shield behind the protection that we provide them with to raise prices. So that's one of the very, very important conditions, as I mentioned already. Thank you.
Thank you, Honourable Minister. The Honourable Hill Lewis.
Thank you very much, Chairperson. Minister, it's amazing that you say that the atmosphere for the pricing discussion is much better. To my mind, it's far, far worse. You cannot say to the steel industry, on the one hand, we will give you 10% protection, on the other hand, demand 10% discount. They're no better off, and neither are downstream manufacturers. And if you are demanding more than a 10% discount from them, then in fact they're worse off. So I don't understand the argument that the pricing discussion is better now than it was a few months ago. Indeed, Minister, you have targeted the steel industry for years as one of your primary targets for your dream of developmental pricing, or basically just price controls. But now, if you look at what's happened in the steel industry, if you look at your loss in the competition case against Sasol, if you look at the mining industry, which is on its knees, the platinum industry in particular, will the Minister now accept and concede that the dream of developmental pricing is surely dead?
The Honourable Minister.
No, indeed, I won't. I think that the point is that the longer-term pricing policies of the primary steel makers is something which we have not managed to crack. But what I think I'm saying, and I'm not in a position to make any detailed announcements about where we're going, but that the conversation on the longer-term pricing model is a lot more constructive than it's been for a very long time. And I think it is precisely because the industry finds itself in difficulties, and that it needs to work together with government in a way that it's never had to do before. And that's one of the reasons that I think has created a much more fruitful conversation between us. As I said before, our aim is to have a pricing policy from upstream steel makers which provides competitively priced products to the more labor-intensive downstream users of steel products. That remains our objective, and we have built in, as I've said already, the protection that we provide to them. They are not allowed to use that as a shield to raise prices. They can use that as a way of withstanding a little bit better some of the competition which is coming from low-cost imported steel, but not to raise prices to downstream steel manufacturers. That's the short-term condition that's been attached, and in the longer term, we continue to work with them around a more supportive and competitive price that supports downstream steel manufacturing. Thank you.
The Honourable Shavambu.
Thank you very much, Chair. Notwithstanding the knee-jerk intention and response to protect jobs in the steel sector. Like for a very long time, the Minister of Trade and Industry and many people from the ruling party have been saying that an impediment to industrial expansion is because of the import parity prices of ArcelorMittal, particularly. That ArcelorMittal is overpricing its steel and metals and all these key industrial inputs. Now ArcelorMittal is in crisis because of the global commodity prices, and we're rushing to protect them through a tariff increase. Don't you think that a much more durable interventions could be renationalization of ISCO and state control and ownership of the strategic steel industry, so that we are able to then deal with that industrialization question, which for a very long time you have been saying is being prevented because of the import parity prices of metal steel. You are protecting them now, but they have been complaining about them for a very long time. Thank you very much.
The Honourable Minister.
No, I think that one of the principles that we still stand by is that import parity pricing should not be the basis of pricing, that we're looking at other models of determining the price of steel, and we're negotiating with the steel manufacturers around that. By the way, though, with the prices having fallen to where they are, import parity pricing probably means lower prices on the domestic market. But the fact of the matter is that we face a very imminent possibility that significant parts of local primary steel manufacturing would be lost in this economy. That would not be to the benefit of industrialization. I'm not sure that the fiscus has the 60-odd billion rand that would probably be necessary to compensate if we were to purchase from ArcelorMittal and renationalize. Nationalization without compensation is, of course, not possible under the Constitution that you swore to uphold when you came into this Parliament. Thank you very much.
The next question has been asked by the Honourable De Vreites to the Minister of Transport. The Honourable Minister.
Thank you, Chairperson. I just want to respond to the question as placed. At the right moment and the right time, and once various processes underway have progressed enough, appropriate action will be taken, and what advice will be given to the President will crystallize then. In the meantime, I just want to indicate to the House that the Board of Control of the Passenger Rail Agency of South Africa has commissioned a forensic investigation on various aspects, including maladministration and improper conduct by the former Group Chief Executive Officer, any employee and board member of PRASA. Once investigations are finalized, I will look at the recommendations and decide on the way forward. But also on the 1st of August, before the Public Protector's report was released, I also asked the Auditor General of South Africa to investigate all allegations of maladministration and impropriety at PRASA. Also, the Public Protector has made inter alia recommendations calling on the Chief Procurement Officer to investigate all tender contracts above 10 million rand issued by PRASA since 2012. I will be meeting with all concerned parties to consolidate these investigations, because members would remember that I made reference to 3 areas of investigation, and we need to consolidate these investigations into one, because all these investigations are focusing on the same matters. And once this has been done, and as usual, regular briefings will be provided to His Excellency President Zuma to report progress on the said investigations. And whatever actions ensuing from that will flow from then on. Thank you.
The Honourable De Vreites.
Thank you, Chair. The Honourable Minister's replies confirms that indeed she is being derailed. And if the wheels were not coming off, the Minister would be taking corruption seriously, as the only way to ensure that money lost and is recuperated and that criminal charges are investigated is through the SIU. That's why her department and PRASA is following, is problematic in following the previous CEO, Lucky Montana, and who is going to be getting appears to be getting scot-free, not to mention all the others with fake qualifications. all this seems to be happening like a runaway train in respect to all the damage that has been caused. This vital state entity falls squarely under a purview, and this forms a greater narrative regarding this government's lack of will to root out corruption. Where has the Minister been in all this? Perhaps hiding in one of the tunnels that the new locomotives hardly fit into. The Minister has an obligation to account for the mess caused and the head-on crash of PRASA. It's the Minister's responsibility.
Honourable Member, your
ensure
time is now expiring. Can you ask a follow-up question, please? Is that the question?
I'm asking that the SIU is the only way to resolve it.
Honourable Minister.
I don't know which part of investigations are ongoing is the honourable member understanding. Because I just want to indicate to him that we are not following one individual, and the intentions to root out corruption has always been the objectives of the African National Congress, and we are not going to desist from doing that. But I want to say to you that as we speak, there are remedial actions that were already in place even before the public protector released her report. So I just want to say to you, there's nothing like what you are saying, head-on crash and all those type of things that you are talking about.
The Honourable Sitole.
Thank you, House Chairperson. Honourable Minister, does the Minister have a strategy to protect the state against the likes of Mr. Mutana, who after looting the state is still demanding a golden handshake when they are recalled?
Which one is that one? The Honourable Minister.
Yes, as a government of the African National Congress and as a Department of Transport, we do have strategies to root out corruption. But what you are referring to, I don't know about.
The Honourable... Honourable answer.
Thank you, Deputy Speaker. Minister, what are your plans and actual action steps that will ensure that there will be consequence for the alleged guilty parties such as ex-PRASA CEO Lucky Montana and fake engineer Daniel Mtunkulu, amongst others?
Honourable Minister.
PRASA has laid charges against Mtunkulu for fraud and corruption, and I just want to give you an indication that based on the issues related to qualifications, all boards and all agencies reporting to the Department of Transport as we speak are doing investigations with regard to qualifications of, in particular, people in decision making. But I want to repeat what I said earlier on, Honourable Member, that as a government of the African National Congress and as the Department of Transport, we do have strategies in place to root out corruption. And I just want to say to you that I'm not going to go into the details of the case of the former group CEO, because as you know, he has gone through the legal process, and I know that it will be incorrect for me to comment on that particular issue. But I've made reference to the 3 investigations that we are doing. But also you'd remember that the public protector has made a recommendation that some of the procurements be investigated by the Chief Procurement Officer. Unfortunately, this week the Chief Procurement Officer was not well and is off sick. We were busy with that particular process to engage with regard to how far we would be able to go to make sure that we can clean up the challenges that we have with regard to procurement challenges within PRASA.
Thank you. The last one to ask the follow-up question is Honourable Ramatlakane.
Thank you, Chair. Minister, can you confirm that as we speak, while the opposition parties is running in and out of the police station, calling press conferences for their normal, cheap, myopic political point scoring, and reporting that government this and the other, can you confirm that our country is in the good hands of the ANC national government, with 8 other provinces running and many municipalities are delivering services, that millions of people are traveling daily using the
Honorable
autobus,
Freitas, please. I can't even hear the speaker.
using the autopacks, buses, train, metro, rail, Shosholoza happily. That in Mamelodi, people are happy with the autopacks buses. Minister, can you confirm that as the concerns or challenges are being handled by the African National Congress, that including those challenges of PRASA are being stabilized towards normalization, that the program of PRASA of locomotive as well as the coaches is on track?
Honorable Minister.
Thank you very much, Honorable Ramatlakane. I just want to confirm that it is true that the government of the ANC is making sure that the services that are provided to the commuters and passengers in South Africa, especially in the public space, are being provided. As we speak, the trains are running because the team of men and women who are competent and qualified, who are working in this environment, who have been working in any case for many, many years, because we do have a pool of experienced managers and experienced technicians and engineers in the areas of passenger public transport. So it is important that I actually emphasize the interventions that have been made with regard to the autopacks buses that are running in Gauteng, but also I want to indicate to the House here that Shosholoza Mail, Metro Rail, as well as the buses that are supposed to be ferrying our people are working on a daily basis. I just want to also indicate to you, Honorable Ramatlakane, that the Rail Safety Regulator is doing a thorough study on the network that is PRASA owned as well as Transnet owned, to make sure that the challenges that we have experienced as a result of metal and copper as well as the stealing of rail tracks, that is actually being addressed after the interventions of repairs, because you would know, Honorable Ramatlakane, that in most instances the challenges that we have of delayed buses or delayed trains is as a result of the theft of our rail tracks. And we have been seeing the intervention through subs also of the railway police to make sure that we can be able to stem out the tide of the theft on our tracks. But we want to assure South Africans that our rail system is on track, and the investment that the African National Congress government has made with the locomotives as well as the building of the new factory that will be at Danata is an intervention, is an investment to make sure that we can address the more than 50 years of lack of investment in the rail sector. And we also want to, yes, more than 50 years of your lack of investment through your previous governments in this particular sector. And that is why we are going to be building the factory to make it possible that we can build the trains locally. And I want to say to you that once the report from the locomotives investigations of testing and commissioning is concluded, we would be then working together with Transnet and DPE to get remedial actions, if any. So, honorable members, the services that people of South Africa need are running. There are challenges, but our challenges are being addressed as we speak.
Thank you very much, Honorable Minister. That brings us to the end of the questions, to the follow-ups to question 439. Order, honorable members, the time allocated for questions has expired. Outstanding replies received will be printed on Hansard. We now come to the notices of motion. Does any member wish to give a notice of a motion? Yes, Honorable Member, EFF.
Thank you very much, Chairperson. The EFF moves that the House in its next sitting debates the impacts of genetically modified organisms on our agricultural sector and future food security, and the potentiality dangerous effects on health that these have on our people. I so move.
Thank you. Honorable NFP, then there.
On behalf of the National Freedom Party, I move that at the next sitting of this Honorable House, the members deliberate on the issue of sustainable and ethical hunting practices in South Africa, and how this could be aligned with the international standards, taking into account the diversity in our historical cultural methods of hunting. I so move.
Thank you. The DA.
Thank you, Chair. I hereby move on behalf of the Democratic Alliance that at its next sitting, this House debates drone hunting and the practice's impact on local wildlife. I so move.
Thank you. ANC.
Madam Chair, I move on behalf of the ANC that in its next sitting, the House debates the possibility of charging people who steal copper wires from essential services such as telephones, railway lines, electric power lines under the Sabotage Act. I so move.
Thank you. We have the IFP. Aston Hazen.
Thank you, Chair. On behalf of the eNCA Freedom Party, I shall move for the next sitting of the House that the House debates that our mineral resources of coal, iron ore and manganese extractions are still being heavily constrained by insufficient rail capacity. The knock-on effects of this is stunting our economic growth and recovery and the short and long-term solutions to this challenge. Thank you.
Thank you. ANC Kekana. Honorable Kekana.
Honorable Chair, I, on behalf of the ANC, move that the House debates in its next sitting the mechanism to deal with political intolerance at our high institutions that have resulted in violence. Thanks very much.
Thank you. DA.
Thank you, Chair. I hereby move on behalf of the Democratic Alliance that at this next sitting the House debates the crippling effect maladministration has had on job creation projects such as the Gauteng Enterprise Propeller.
Thank you. EFF, Honorable Kaula.
Ngibonge lapho sihlalo njengelunga le EFF ngokulandelayo ake kukhulunywe ngalenkinga ngendaba yamasiko omhlanga ozintombi lawa suke kuhanjwa kwaNongoma lamasiko mahle kakhulu ngangokuthi mahle ngokuthi avuselela namasiko nezimilo zabatana bethu abazukulu. Kodwa manje esekufanele ke sixoxe ngakho sekunento esinazi isihlava sivelaphi lesokufa kweingane ziyalapha emhlangeni nalomkhayizo ukuthi ake kubhekwe lamadoda amadala ahamba yelapha ephethe imithi eqabela izingane zethu uhlanga lomhlaba ake lisukumele kuxoshela amadoda afuna izingane zethu ezincane ngemithi eyihayizisa. Ngiyabonga.
Ngiyathokoza bami. ANC babekhoza.
Ngiyabonga sihlalo.
Order, honorable members, order.
I move, Chairperson, on behalf of the ANC that in its next sitting, the House debates the qualifying criteria for National Student Financial Aid Scheme funding with special reference to the missing middle. I thank you.
Thank you. DA.
Chair, thank you. I hereby move on behalf of the Democratic Alliance that at its next sitting, this House debates the Minister of Water and Sanitation's proposal on acid mine water desulfuration plants across South Africa.
Thank you. IFP, Honorable van der Merwe.
Thank you very much, Honourable House Chairperson. I hereby give notice that I shall move on behalf of the IFP that this House at its next sitting debates the critical shortage of social workers in our country, which negatively impacts on the lives of the most vulnerable sectors of our society.
Thank you. ANC, EFF first. Mami.
Ngiyabonga sihlalo. Ndiphakamela iEFF xa iphinda ihlala lendlu. Ndizophakamisa okokuba ixoxe ngegym site eyakhiwe eMarikana West ecaleni kwendlela engabiyelwanga nethi ilimaze abantwana kuba akukho mntu obajongileyo. I so move.
Thank you. NFP.
Thank you, Honorable House Chair. On behalf of the National Freedom Party, I move that at the next sitting of this Honorable House, the members deliberate on the issue of the pressing need for state-sponsored centers that will care for abandoned and destitute elderly people in the country. I so move. Thank you.
Thank you. ANC.
Thank you, House Chair. I move on behalf of the ANC that in its next sitting, the House debates working cooperation between national, provincial and local government to discuss the issue of purchasing of land to respond to the housing backlogs. I thank you.
Thank you very much. NFP.
Thank you, House Chair. On behalf of the National Freedom Party, I move that at the next sitting, the House deliberates on the issue of the alarming increase in unlawful deductions from SASSA accounts, which have a negative impact on pensioners, and the desirability for legislative intervention to cap such deductions. I so move.
Thank you. The DA, Honorable Meklo.
Thank you, House Chairperson. I hereby move on behalf of the Democratic Alliance that at its next sitting, this House debates the proposed relocation of the Northwest Province's Freiburg Deeds Office. I so move.
Thank you. EFF, Mam Kaula.
Akudlalwa phela la EFF neke kubonakala ukuthi ifikile lana. Ngokulandelayo ake sikhulume ngendaba yabantwana abasuke beshonelwe abazali. Othola ukuthi emndenini akusekho umuntu osebenzayo. Ngangokuthi ingane zinaye into yokuthi zixoshe ikati eziko. Ngiyajabula oba nangu ungqongqoshe uminister ukhona wabantwana. Ukuthi lezi ngane akayibhekelelwe zingaze igcina sezenza into engafanele ukudla idakamizwa nanokuthi zigcine sezihamba zintshontsha. Siyacela ukuthi kusukume lapha eChasworth ku Ward 77 ukhansela uMathombi wakamnyandu akafuni ukusukuma yosebenza. Ingane ihleli endlini engawa noma yini. Sikhona ke njenge EFF la sizilizodlala sizosebenza iconstituency yami eThekwini.
Thank you very much.
Lalelani ngempela kudlalwa.
Ngiyabonga Mam Kaula. As we do that, let's remind one another that we are not doing statements. Is there any other member who wish to ANC?
I move on behalf of the African National Congress that in its next sitting, the House debates the role of the women in our new South Africa since 1994 up to date. Thank you.
Thank you very much. The indication is that that was the last on the motions, notices of motion. We now come to motion without notice. Are there any people who wish to raise motion without notice? Honorable Mkhalapa, GA.
Thank you, House Chairperson. I hereby move on behalf of the Democratic Alliance that this House notes 1, the Syrian refugee crisis currently unraveling across Europe and the media. 2, further notes that after 4 years of the civil war in Syria, 220,000 people, half of whom are believed to be civilians, have been killed, 7.6 million internally displaced, and 4 million have registered or are awaiting registration with the United Nations High Commission on Refugees. 3, applaud the nations and families that have opened their borders and homes to the Syrian people. 4, condemn the 4-year-long civil war and its effects. 5, call for those on both sides of this conflict to seek an amicable solution. I so move.
Are there any objections to the motion?
House Chair will object.
The motion falls off. Honorable Mukause, EFF.
Thank you, House Chair. I move without notice on behalf of the economic freedom fighters, the House, to note the ongoing corruption in the Northern Cape local and district municipalities, particularly the John Taolo Gaetsewe district municipality. Further notes that the John Taolo Gaetsewe district municipality is a rural municipality in the Northern Cape which serves some of the most marginalized people of the province with very few opportunities for development. Further note that in 2013, when former President Nelson Mandela passed on, provinces and municipalities were requested to make it possible for the public to view the proceedings of the funeral. Further notes that the John Taolo Gaetsewe district municipality was forced to appoint a company owned by Mr. Wandile Bozwana to provide screens for the viewing in the entire district. This was as a result of Mr. Bozwana colluding with the Mayor Musikatsi and the municipal manager Doreen Bokwatile. Acknowledges that this service was never rendered. And afterwards, the company director, Mr. Bozwana, demanded that council endorses his invoice for the service he claimed to have rendered, for which there is proof that he never rendered the service. Further acknowledges that Mr. Bozwana took the municipality to court, and with the influence that he has over municipal managers in the Northern Cape province and the MEC of Kokta, Mr. Elvon Botas, he managed to intimidate municipal officials not to testify against him in court, and as a result, the court ruled in his favor. Further acknowledges that the corrupt ANC politicians in that district municipality agreed to the suspension of the CFO in the municipality because he was fighting corruption by Mr. Bozwana. We call on the Minister of Corporate Governance and Traditional Affairs, if he has the courage of his convictions, to act to root out corruption in the John Taolo Gaetsewe district municipality. I so move.
Is there any objection to the motion?
Objects.
There is an objection. The motion falls away. Imam Shaikh,
Thank you, Honorable House Chair. On behalf of the National Freedom Party, I move without notice that this Honorable House notes that the 2014 Global Age Watch Index has ranked South Africa in 80th position out of 96 countries when measuring the health status of the elderly, and also notes that the index measured the well-being of older people in 4 key areas, namely income security, health, personal capability, and an enabling environment. Further notes that abuse of the elderly is rising in South Africa and includes financial, physical, psychological, social, sexual abuse, and neglect, all of which in many circumstances is an outspoken of an underreported crime. And finally notes that with South Africa's rapidly aging population, it is estimated by 2031, the population aged 65 years and over will nearly double, which means that the problem of elderly abuse will become even bigger in future. Wherefore, we call upon this Honorable House to express its disappointment at the low ranking of South Africa on the global scale and take a stand against elderly abuse in whatever form and encourage communities to take care of the elderly. I so move. Thank you.
Thank you. ANC, no. Do we have any objection to the motion?
We object.
Objected to, it falls down. ANC?
The African National Congress move without notice that the House note that South African commemorate the National Book Week from the 7th to the 13th of September 2015. Further note that the Deputy Minister of Arts and Culture, Comrade Rejoice Mabutafatsi, launched the National Book Week and the National Book Week tour, Pasav Emoyeni Conference Center in Parktown. We acknowledge that the National Book Week is an important initiative in encouraging the nation to value reading as funny and pleasurable activities, and to showcase how reading can easily be incorporated into one daily lifestyle. Believe that the importance of reading in order to achieve success in life is fundamental for the individual and essential for the nation building and social cohesion. We remember that each year Many people include celebrate lend their names, their energy to our campaign. Congratulate the Department of Arts and Culture in collaboration with the South African Books Development Council for organizing this year's National Book Day.
Thank you. Are there no objections to the motion?
Yes. Yes, Madam Chair, the EFF objects.
There is an objection. The motion falls down. GA, Honorable Waters.
Thank you, Chair. I hereby move on behalf of the Democratic Alliance that this House notes that the Executive Mayor of the Ekurhuleni Metro, Councillor Mondli Gungungbela, has identified the Kempton Park CBD and surrounding areas as an aerotropolis, which is a city that is built around an airport, offering its businesses speedy connectivity and to their suppliers, which the DA supports. However, condemns the current dilapidated state of the Kempton Park CBD, which is strewn with potholes, some knee-deep, uncollected refuge, which is piling up on street corners, and crumbling infrastructure. Noting that the Executive Mayor has failed to respond to an open letter I wrote to him regarding these issues. Further noting the CBD is in such an appalling state, one can only describe the aerotropolis as a trash-otropolis. Acknowledges that given its industrial strength, Ekurhuleni Metro can and must become an example of how a metro can create an environment that ignites job creation. Calls on Mayor Gungungbele to roll up his sleeves, take action, and clean up his trash-otropolis. I so move. Thank you.
Thank you. Are there no objections to the motion?
Yes, Honorable Chair. ANC objects. Thank you.
Thank you. We still have. Okay. Can we have the EFF?
Thanks, Honorable Chair. Ndo email EFF ndikotakuwa ndikidzinginya husina ndivadzo uri nduhei idive zvauri muvuso hoyu wa ANC worata vathu vothe nga manda mahayani kha province dzothe malugana na u ṱhogomela dzibada. Udive uri dzibada ndi madindi ndi pothole adzingo taliwa adzina dzitswayo dza bada adzivonali. Ndu idove idive zvauri nga mulandu wa u sa vha na dziḓirata fencing dziphukha na dzifuwo zwi khou vhanga dzikhombo dzibadani. Vhathu vha re na mimoḓoro vha khou badela mithelo ṅwaha muṅwe na muṅwe mara masheleni ha khou shuma u ṱhogomela dzibada. Zwino ri arali muthu a sa badela muthelo muvhuso hoyu wa mu konḓisela afariwa uri abadele muthelo. Zwino mivhuso na mimasipala kha vha shumise tshelede ya mithelo ya dzigoloi u ṱhogomela dzibada dzashu. I so move.
Are there any objections to the motion?
Objects.
Is that an objection? Okay, the motion falls off. Honorable Majeke, UGM.
Thank you, Chairperson. I move without notice on behalf of United Democratic Movement that the House notes that the South African judiciary and the people of South Africa are mourning the death of the late High Court Judge Hasina Mayat, who passed away on Monday, the 7th September 2015. Further notes that Judge Mayat has been described as a very committed, humble person and one of the pillars of the Gauteng division, a brave, smart, and decisive jurist in handling difficult cases, has served the nation with distinction. The country has lost a leader, a warrior, a role model in the legal fraternity. We send our condolences to the family, friends, and the legal fraternity. I so move.
Thank you. Is there no objection to the motion? Can you please use your mic? Oh, no objection. No objection. Agreed to. Honorable Shangwa. Order, honorable members. Honorable Sanga, continue.
Thanks you so much, Honorable Chairperson. On behalf of the eNCA Freedom Party, I move without notice that the House 1 extends its greatest concern in barbaric killing of wild animals during the so-called game hunt, which is currently underway in South Africa's private reserves. Note that this cruelty of animal killing involves attracting the beasts and then driving them towards hunters waiting on special platforms. Though legal, is cruel as animals are often only wounded and then left to die a slow and painful death. Further note, this brutality comes just over 2 months after Cecil the lion was killed by an American recreational game hunter in Zimbabwe, causing a global outcry against inhumane hunting. Acknowledges that more than 18 animals were killed during this time, including gemsbuck, eland, wildebeest, warthogs, impala, and the duiker. Congratulates the NSPCA for successfully obtaining a warrant to gain access to the farms and can bring charges against the organizers if they see the signs of cruelty towards animals during the hunt. I so move.
Thank you. Are there no objections to the motion?
House Chair, we object. Obvious.
Thank you. The next one is Honorable Imam Shaikh, NFP.
Thank you, Honorable House Chair. Another good story to tell. On behalf of the National Freedom Party, I move without notice that this Honorable House notes that the South African police have revealed that 10 drug factories operating from upmarket suburban homes and holiday flats in KwaZulu-Natal have been discovered and closed by police this year with more than 30 million rand in drugs seized. And also notes that these suburban drug laboratories are found in Margate, La Lucia, Bellito, Hillcrest, Pinetown, and one in an upmarket flat at the Point waterfront. And further notes that the lucrative drug trade in KwaZulu-Natal, which is supplied by 3 suburban factories, are controlled by 3 main syndicates dealing in crack cocaine, hydroponic grown dagga, and as well as sugars and wunga. Finally notes that the closure of these drug laboratories come about as a result of the tireless work of Captain Devon Mudley, a senior narcotics investigator, and his elite crime unit within the Hawks. Wherefore, we call upon this Honorable House to congratulate Captain Devon Mudley and his team on their success in shutting down suburban drug laboratories, which are fueling the drug trade in KwaZulu-Natal, and encourage communities to join the police countrywide in their fight against the scourge of drugs, which is tearing away at the social fabric of our country. I so move.
Thank you. Do you have any objection to the motion? Thank you. The motion falls off. Honorable Mbinda, PAC.
I hereby move without notice on behalf of the Pan-Africanist Congress of Azania that the House notes that at 9:09 today, the 9th day of the 9th month, the world commemorates Fetal Alcohol Syndrome, FAS Day. Alcohol-related problems can include deformities, mental retardation, and learning disabilities. Further notes that the 9th is to emphasize to women the importance of not drinking alcohol for the 9 months of pregnancy, as the alcohol they drink enters the bloodstream of the fetus and causes permanent damage to the unborn baby. Also notes that rural areas in Western Cape and towns in Northern Cape are the hardest hit by FAS. It does, however, affect babies born in urban areas with prevalence in teen pregnancy and young moms. Acknowledges that an estimated 25,000 babies are born with FAS every year in South Africa, and that FAS is the main cause in severe mental disabilities and stunted physical growth in babies, a large number of undocumented cases. Further acknowledge that the FAS is preventable and 100% avoidable. Calls for continuous intervention, education, and counseling initiatives for young mothers and old, and information for empowering communities and enabling them to deal with this cause. Further calls for the serious look into mental health in our country. Greater investment and focus is needed in the area of mental health. I so move.
Thank you very much. Is there objection to the motion?
Honorable, we object as the EFF.
Thank you very much. We ANC.
The African National Congress move without notice that the House note that on the 21-year-old Charlie McCroft, a student from the University of Cape Town, and her team of climbers on Thursday, the 3rd September 2015, reached the summit of the mountain of Kilimanjaro, making her the first female quadriplegic to do so. Further note that the disability activist is the co-founder of the non-profit Charlie's campaign. Recognizes that the climbing group had been planning the Kilimanjaro trip for 2 years before traveling from Cape Town to Tanzania in the late August 2015. We recall that McCraft, who has cerebral palsy, was awarded the 2011 International Children Peace Prize in 2012. She became the first ever recipient of the Nobel Peace Laureate Medal for the social activists. Further recall that she was also a youth keynote speaker at the 2012 UNICEF conference in Paris on inclusive education. And in 2013, she was awarded the World Children Youth Award in New York. We believe that Charlie is a source of inspiration and a role model to the young people with disability and living example that people with disability can also reach and fulfill their dreams. And congratulate Charlie and her team of climbers for the tremendous achievement that they've done. We so move.
Thank you. Do we have any objection to the motion?
EFF object.
Thank you very much. The motion falls off. IFP, Honorable van der Merwe. Order, honorable members. Honorable van der Merwe.
Thank you very much, Honourable House Chairperson. I hereby move on behalf of the eNCA Freedom Party without notice that this House notes that many NGOs providing vital services on behalf of the state and effect positive change in our communities, and that these organizations are in deep crisis with many unable to raise funds, acknowledges that civil society organizations such as the Treatment Action Campaign play a crucial role in raising awareness on HIV/AIDS, while an NGO Dignity Dreams is lobbying support for the 2 million young girls in our country who miss 60 days of schooling each year because they cannot afford sanitary towels. Further acknowledges that a decline in South Africa's civil society sector is likely to exacerbate poor service delivery and an increase in social ills. Accepts that by investing in civil society, we are investing in a brighter future, and therefore calls on government and South African businesses at large to make more money available to civil society and for South Africans to get involved by volunteering their skills to these organizations. I so move.
Thank you. Do you have any objection to the motion?
Madam Chair, the EFF objects.
The EFF objects. That falls down. NFP at the back.
Chairperson, on behalf of the NFP, I move without notice that this Honourable House knows that the 138 megawatts holder wind electricity generating facility became fully operational last week, and also notes that the facility was built by listed infrastructure group having an East partner Acciona Energia of Spain for ESCOM at a cost of 2.7 billion. And further notes that the Holder wind facility situated on shore in the Drakenstein municipality of the Western Cape consists of 46 wind-driven power turbines of 3 megawatts each and will generate about 400 gigawatt hours of electricity sufficient to provide power to about 200,000 homes a year. And finally notes that Aveng has also constructed a 250-hectare Session solar plant, which consists of about 320,000 solar photovoltaic panels and which produces 216 gigawatts of electricity, equivalent to the consumption of 100,000 South African households a year. Wherefore, we call upon this Honourable House to congratulate Aveng on completion of the Holder Wind Farm and encourage ESCOM to continue support for further development in renewable and eco-friendly electricity generation, capacity to reduce our country's reliance on fossil fuel-based electricity generation. I so move.
Thank you very much. Do you have an objection to the motion?
Khona bakithi umkhonyana kwami lo kodwa ngiya-object.
Thank you. The motion falls off. EFF, Honorable Paulser.
Thank you, Honourable Chair. I move on behalf of the Economic Freedom Fighters without notice that the House, 1, notes the treatment of fishermen and women who continue to be subjected to horrendous working conditions in the coastal areas of the Eastern Cape. 2, that white monopoly capital continues to make it impossible for local black fishing companies who want to enter the industry, even to the point of threatening violence. Further note that several engagements with leadership from local fishing labour council representing fishermen and women from the Nelson Mandela Metro, Neisner, Jeffreys Bay, Tsitsikamma and other parts of the coast, it has become clear that there are unspeakable levels of abuse of black workers. At times, workers are not even paid when work was carried out, but only get threatened with violence. There is no compensation for occupational injuries due to collusion by some unscrupulous doctors and fishing companies. Further note that police have bungled the case of a white boat owner who shot and killed a black worker, and the Humid police station has failed to do any investigation. Call on the government to stop colluding with white monopoly capital by hiking the cost of obtaining fishing permits. We call on the Humid police station to investigate the murder case as a matter of urgency. I so move.
Thank you. Do you have an objection to the motion?
House Chair. Noma yini evela kubo asivumi.
Gubo, honorable member, can you please talk? Don't talk like that. Isho kahle ukuthi uya object.
Ini abayishoyo say object. Ngesingisi ke leso.
Okay. On DA.
Thank you, Honourable Chairperson. I hereby move on behalf of the Democratic Alliance that this House notes that the 1st of September 2015 ushered in Steptember, a month annually dedicated to raising awareness of and raising funds for those living with cerebral palsy. That in less than 10 days, September 2015 has raised $1.8 million globally. Encourage all South Africans to support this remarkable initiative. Thank you.
Thank you. Do you have any objection to the motion? No objection. The motion.
House Chair, I've raised my hand. I object.
Honorable member, I've been asking people to go to the mic. Your hand, I thought you wanted to come in. So I have you on my list, but thank you very much, but I've been asking for people to go to the mic, so let it be like that. I thank you have done that. Now it's your turn to raise your own motion.
Thank you, House Chair. I move without notice on behalf of the Economic Freedom Fighters for the House to note the arrogance of the ANC government towards the voters and to those who put them in power. Further notes the arrogance of President Zuma and the Minister of Mineral Resources towards victims of asbestosis in the communities of Maruping, Bakaros, Tsineng, and Daniel Scale in the Northern Cape. Acknowledges that despite numerous attempts by the victims themselves and even by the South African courts compelling government to compensate the affected communities, the ANC continues to turn a blind eye, whilst prominent figures within the ANC and those loyal to them live a high life, benefiting from the same mines. Further acknowledges that some victims died not having received their compensation, with their hopes thrashed under the uncaring and corrupt ANC government acknowledges that these victims trusted the EFF leadership enough by asking them to assist them to get their compensation monies from government. Yes. We applaud the ex-mine workers of Jeffco in the Kuruman area who refused to give up and for their bold decision to continue to fight for compensation. We therefore call on the government to compensate the victims of asbestosis accordingly. We further on call government not to further frustrate those poor communities and their families. I so move.
Thank you. Do you have any objection to the motion?
Honorable House Chair, the National Freedom Party opposes.
Thank you. The motion falls off. Do we have any other motion without notice, ANC? Any other?
Thank you, Honorable Chair. The African National Congress moves without notice that the House welcomes the launch of the Department of Science and Technology National Research Foundation under the theme Critical Thought in Africa Humanities by the Minister of Science and Technology, Honorable Pando, on Wednesday, the 2nd September 2015. Notes that UWC was chosen by the international panel as the recipient of the flagship, a process which consisted of the presentation by UWC Center for Humanities Research. Acknowledges that the flagship is founded on the 3 research thematics: asthmatic education, the becoming technical of human, the migrating violence, and further acknowledges that the flagship will convene a public lecture series in the Eklon, Cape Town, and establish a Factory of Arts in the former District 6 in the effort to engage further with members of the public. Recalls that this flagship on critical thought in African humanities is a planned platform for the scholarly exchange, artistic creation, and public inquiry into African political subjectivity, art and society, technology and the human. Further recalls that it is designed to host scholars and students from South Africa universities, public institutions and national and international research bodies in a collaborative initiative to forge the next generation of humanities scholars, committed to demands of building a post-apartheid South Africa, and congratulates the Minister, the Department of Science, and all other role players on launching this new initiative on critical thought. So we move.
Thank you. Do you have any objection to the motion?
Chairperson, the EFF proudly object.
Thank you. The motion falls off. EFF Polsa.
Thank you, Chairperson. I move on behalf of the Economic Freedom Fighters without notice that the House notes that the first agroecology project undertaken by the Philippi Horticultural Area was launched on Saturday, the 5th of September 2015. Further notes that agroecology has been proven to be a more sustainable form of land usage as opposed to aggressive agricultural approaches that destroys the quality of agricultural soil. Acknowledges that the Philippi Horticultural Area is the breadbasket of the city of Cape Town, producing 150,000 tons of vegetables per annum. Further acknowledges and commends the drivers of the project, Natalie McCaskill, Nazir Sunday, and Susanna Coleman, and volunteers from across the Cape Flats for their commitment to saving this valuable area from the greed of the myopic city of Cape Town government. Notes that this area is currently under threat to be used for housing purposes by the city of Cape Town, whereas the 40-hectare Rondebosch Common would be more suited for housing. At present, the Common, or as it was known by Khoi, Tsui Gawab, is being used by surrounding community to walk their pets. Further notes that the 572 hectares of Philippi Horticultural Area is ideally suited as an agri-village where 250 families working in the area and living in the informal settlements, and if given 2 hectares of land, can be housed, feed themselves, and engage in a sustainable livelihood, generating activity instead of giving the land to developers to build gated villages for middle-income groups. I so move.
Thank you. Do you have any objection to the motion?
He forgot to say white monopoly capital as usual.
Do we have any objection? Thank you very much. The motion falls away. Any other motion without notice? ENCA?
Thank you, Honorable House Chair.
Order, Chair. Who objected our motions?
The chief whip of the DA.
He didn't.
Honestly speaking, he
No,
did
he
at the
didn't.
end. He did. Continue, honorable member. I heard him. Continue, ANC.
Thank you, Honorable House Chair. The African National Congress moves without notice that the House notes with sadness the death of Mr. Big Boy Nelson Moshego, a mathematics teacher at Kutselani Secondary School at Kabokweni in Mpumalanga Province, who collapsed while playing soccer on Sunday, the 30th August 2015, at Elijah Mogo College Sports Ground, and passed on at the Nelspread Medical Clinic on the 31st August.
Honorable members, sorry. Please, the noise levels are high. I can't even hear. Continue, member.
Further notes that the late Big Boy Nelson Moshego was born at Mbonisweni Trust in Mpumalanga Province on the 20th July 1962. Acknowledges that he received awards afterwards at the eNCA circuit as #1 maths educator. Further acknowledge that he produced many academics around the community of Kabokwenu and entire district. Remembers that Mashiko, nicknamed Botsotso, was very passionate with soccer from his childhood and assisted the school as a soccer coach and a player for Kabokeni Old Crocs. Believes that his death is a sad loss to Mpumalanga Department of Education and the entire province. And we convey our condolences to his wife, Me Sophie Mashiko, and his only son, Cyril Mashiko, as well as his two brothers and the Kutsalani Secondary School. We so move. Thank you.
Thank you. Any objection to the motion?
We object, Chair.
Thank you. The motion falls off. No other notices of motion, I believe. Order, honorable members. Honorable members, on Thursday, the 13th August 2015, a point of order was raised during a debate on the Marikana Commission of Inquiry report by Honorable B.A. Khadebe in response to remarks made during the speech of Honorable J.S. Malema. I undertook to study the Hansard and returned to the House with a ruling. Having had an opportunity to study the unrevised Hansard, I wish to rule as follows. Honorable Malema said the following. What this means is that the ANC government, with the influence of business politicians, in particular Mr. Cyril Ramaphosa, premeditated the killing of mine workers in Marikana. They engaged in what is known in law as conspiracy to commit murder, unquote. Honorable Malema further said, Mr. Cyril, worker murderer Ramaphosa, played a central role in influencing the police, unquote. While the Constitution, honorable members, affords members of the Assembly freedom of speech, this freedom is subjected to the rules and orders that the Assembly imposes on itself. Rule 63 states that no member shall use offensive or unbecoming language. This is a broadly framed rule in order to allow as much freedom of speech as possible. However, remarks which reflect on the integrity of a member of this House or impute improper or unworthy motives or action to that member are unparliamentary. Such allegations can only be brought to the attention of the House by way of properly substantiated motion supported by evidence. If accusations were to be generally allowed in debate in this House, they would not only undermine members in their performance of their duties, but would also undermine the image of Parliament itself. It is worth reiterating that all members have undertaken an oath to uphold the Constitution and the laws of this country. May I ask Honorable Malema to stand? Thank you. The remarks, the Honorable Malema, are offensive and derogatory to a fellow member of the House. The remarks cannot be regarded as being in any way parliamentary or acceptable. Honorable Malema, will you please withdraw the remarks that Honorable Ramaphosa was engaged in the conspiracy to commit murder and that he is a murderer?
Cyril is a murderer, and Cyril participated in the conspiracy to murder workers.
A point of order, Chair.
Honorable I will come to your point of order. Honorable member, please let me finish with honorable. I'll recognize you. Please, Honorable Zulu. Honorable Malema. Honorable Malema.
You are right. Deal with Malema first before you recognize.
Honorable Malema, in other words, I ask you to withdraw. You reiterate what you said. And in this August House, you repeat that Honorable Deputy President Ramaphosa is a murderer. Are you going to withdraw, Honorable Malema?
Cyril Ramaphosa is a murderer and participated in the conspiracy to kill the workers in
So
Marikana.
you are not prepared to withdraw?
You can take me to jail for that. Cyril has got blood of innocent
Honorable
people.
Malema, thank you very much. Honorable.
That. I will never apologize to Cyril. Cyril must rot in jail. He's a murderer. He killed our people.
Malema,
and if you are going to use this parliament to protect murderers, I'm not going to agree to that. So why do you switch off my mic if you want me to speak?
I don't want you to speak. I asked you to do one thing.
But why did you ask me to stand up? Why did you ask me to stand up?
Because I asked you to withdraw.
Switch on the mic.
No, I'm not going to do that.
So I'm not listening to you also.
Honorable Malema, will you please leave the house?
I'm not leaving.
Will you please leave the house?
I'm not leaving.
Honorable Malema. Honorable Malema.
Call those people to come and remove
Honorable Malema.
Those bouncers you have hired to come and kill us here. In the same way you kill people in Marikana. Call them. I'm not going anywhere.
Will you please
I'm not going anywhere. I'm not leaving.
Honorable members.
Please ask the sergeant that come and assist.
Ngiyabonga. Mhlonishwa ngiyabonga lapho ngaphambili.
No.
Ubani usigazozo la? Ubani usigazozo?
Honorable members, at this stage, I am going to ask the Sergeant of Arms to come into the House and help us to remove Honorable Malema from the House. Matlangu?
Point of order. Point of order, Chair. Point of order, Chair. Point of order, Chair.
Chairperson, can I raise order here? Can I please be allowed to speak here? Chairperson, can you please allow me to speak here?
Honorable Shivambu, I'm dealing with Honorable Malema as per the process of the rules of this house.
There is no rule. Can I please speak?
Of the rules of this house.
Can I speak?
I'm not going to allow anybody to interrupt what the processes of this house.
Chair, the mic is off. Chair. Chairperson.
Second stage. After such a has come and indicated that the officer doesn't want to refuse it. Now you need to say it.
That's not fair. That's not fair.
Chairperson.
Honorable members, order.
Chair.
I have been informed.
On a point of order, Chair.
I'm busy with the process, Honorable Member. Please allow me to do...
I just want to clarify something.
Honorable members, please order. I have been informed
I'm not talking to you,
by the Sergeant at Arms.
Chair, but I'm raising on a point of order.
Honorable, no, there's no order in this one. I'm
Chair,
not allowing, and if you are not, okay, let me not even go into that.
It's Rule 67,
Let me deal
Chair.
with what I am busy with. Let me not be disturbed. Honorable members, I have been informed by the Sergeant at Arms that Honorable Malema will not leave the House. Now, Honorable Malema, I have given you an opportunity to comply with the directive of the Chair as assisted by the Sergeant at Arms. As this conduct is now interfering with the ability of the House to conduct its business, I now call upon the Parliamentary Protective Services to assist the Sergeant of Arms to remove the member from the chamber so that House can proceed with its business. Can I get that Sergeant of Arms to assist us?
Order, Chair. Order, Chair.
And then how do we continue this one?
celebrating? Nothing. Cowards.
Thank you very much. Order, honorable members. Order. Honorable. May I please complete the process, Honorable Steenhuisen, if you will pardon me and take your seat. Yes, I will. Honorable members, a member who is removed from the House, from the chamber in terms of Sub-Rule 2 is thereby immediately automatically suspended for the period applicable as provided in Rule 54 and may not enter the precinct for the duration of the suspension. If I have to go to Rule 54 and read it to you, the suspension of a member shall on the first occasion during a session continue for 5 parliamentary working days, on the second occasion for 10 parliamentary working days, and on any subsequent occasion for 20 parliamentary working days. Now, that is the ruling for today. Honorable Steenhuisen.
Thank you very much. So I think you need to put the mics back on.
Oh. My apologies.
Thank you. House Chair, I'd like to address you in terms of Rule 52, if I may.
52 years.
52. I believe that the Honourable Malema's refusal to withdraw despite the request from you was a grievous offence in terms of the rules. And I think it was so egregious an offence that it didn't warrant asking the member to leave the chamber. And I would advance, Madam House Chair, and I want it placed on record, that I believe that Rule 52B should have been invoked by you rather than calling in the Parliamentary Protection Services. There was no disruption to the proceedings. There was no threat to anybody's life here. And I think that a more appropriate direction for you to have gone would have been 52B, which would have avoided... If you don't mind, I'm taking a point of order.
I'm listening to you. Please, honourable members.
I can't hear you. And I think that 52B would have been a far more appropriate way to do it. The situation which you've employed this rule is not the situation in which we envisaged when the Rules Committee discussed it. And I already hear that the honourable member there says it's coming for me as well. You can do it for you.
Honourable Steenhuisen, you are addressing me. Can we deal with this?
I'm happy for you to do it for me. You can do that whenever you want. Bring them in whenever you're ready.
Address me, Honourable Steenhuisen.
I am addressing you, but it's very difficult to do so when I've got a harridan screaming in the corner. But to say to you that I don't believe that this has been the correct application of the rules, and I would like the Democratic Alliance's view placed on the record. Thank you.
Honourable Steenhuisen, in this House, we have voted for a rule that addresses such conduct that was displayed today by the Honourable Malema. And I have been following those rules that we've all adopted. And having said that, honourable members, if there is anybody who is not happy with the ruling, we know what to do. And may I say, that brings us to the end of the business today, and the House is adjourned.